My father constructed a playground for kids he didn't know, yet he never once told us he loved us. He even threw me out after I stood up for my younger brother at supper. When did you ever catch a glimpse of your tough dad's hidden side, the one nobody else saw? My father was intimidating, standing at 6 feet 2 inches, with hands like massive gloves and a stare that could make you admit to things you didn't do. He ran a landscaping business, barking commands at his crew like a military officer, and home was no different. I'm Gavin, a 16-year-old trying to navigate his drill sergeant energy alongside my mom and little brother Isaac, who's 10 and already a pro at staying in Dad's good graces. The rules were rigid. Be home by 9 p.m., dishes washed before bed, no talking back. My buddies called him the Commander, half laughing, half scared. I always wondered if there was more to him than the hard-nosed act. Growing up in his house felt like being in a high-stakes boot camp. He wasn't mean, just unyielding. A single C on my report card meant a long talk about taking charge of your destiny. I got my answer last summer, but it wasn't without a price. It all began with a clash that rocked our home to its core. If I skipped soccer practice, he'd have me jogging laps in the yard until my legs ached. "Life's not a handout, Gavin," he'd growl, his tone rough as sandpaper. Mom would try to ease the tension, saying he just wanted us to thrive, but it felt like he was prepping us for a battle we didn't choose. Isaac had it easier since he was younger, but even he knew to stay quiet when Dad was in a mood. I didn't despise him, but I longed for a moment when he'd act like a regular dad, maybe tell a joke or say he was proud without a lecture tacked on. Deep down, I questioned if he even liked us, or if we were just his duty. Things were already strained the summer I turned 16. I'd been working part-time at his company, lugging dirt and clipping shrubs under the scorching July sun. It was exhausting, and Dad showed me no mercy. "You're not here to slack off," he'd snap if I lingered too long for a drink. I was saving for a used car, craving the independence it promised, but every dollar felt like a speck in a vast ocean. At home, Dad was on edge because his business was faltering. A major client had pulled out, and he was scrambling to make ends meet. Mom tried to lift his spirits, but he'd just mutter and retreat to the garage to mess with his equipment. Isaac and I moved carefully around him, knowing one misstep could spark an eruption. It all exploded one humid evening in late July. Dinner was tense, with only the clatter of utensils and Mom's anxious chatter about her gardening group. Isaac was excitedly talking about a science fair project, something about a model spaceship, when Dad cut him off. "Eat your food, don't babble," he said, barely glancing up. Isaac shrank back and I felt my fists clench. I was fed up with the silence, fed up with Dad treating us like workers instead of his kids. I mumbled, "Maybe he'd talk less if you didn't always shut him up." The room went still. Mom's spoon froze midair and Isaac's eyes grew wide. Dad's head jerked up, his gaze piercing me. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice low and sharp. I knew I should back off, but something broke inside me. "I said you're always on us," I shot back. "Isaac was just excited and you act like it's a felony. You treat us like we're letting you down every day." Mom gasped. "Gavin, sweetheart, let's not—" But Dad raised a hand, silencing her. He leaned closer, his grip tightening on his glass. "You think you can speak to me like that in my house after all I do for you?" "All you do?" I scoffed, bitterness spilling out. "You mean barking at us like we're never enough? I'm busting my back at your company, and all I get is grief." My voice shook now, and I could feel Isaac staring, but I couldn't stop. Dad stood, looming over the table. "You're out of line, Gavin. You don't know what it takes to keep this family going." "Maybe I would if you ever talked to us," I shouted, standing too. "You're not a dad. You're a foreman." The words echoed, and for a moment I thought he'd swing at me. Instead, he pointed at the door. "Get out! Now!" I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my shoes and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows shook. The night air was thick, crickets humming like nothing had happened. I stomped down the street, my heart pounding, replaying the fight. Part of me felt alive, like I'd finally said what I'd bottled up for years, but another part was terrified. What if Dad never let me back in? What if I'd wrecked my whole family? I ended up at a park a few streets away, slumping on a bench by an empty baseball diamond. My phone buzzed. Mom texting, "Gavin, come home." He didn't mean it. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to face him. I sat there for hours, watching the stars appear, wondering why Dad was so hard on us.